So first of all, strong results, beat of the expectations on the street. What is it mostly attributable to? Is it the performance of the investment bank?
No, actually, I think it is attributed to the fact that in addition to a very strong set of reported numbers, the underlying numbers in terms of operating profitability were strong across the board, but particularly in the IB and global wealth management, and from a geographic standpoint of view in Asia and in the Americas. But all businesses were, contributing to the strong performance.
What does this mean for the investment bank, which has been, which you've shrunk down, and there were reports last week that you were debating internally the investment bank?
Well, I think if I can say that kind of report was a little bit of poor reporting. I would say if you look at our results in the IB from a standalone standpoint of view in the last 5 years have been very strong. We are very competitive. We compete in the areas we choose to compete, and the investment banking is not about shrinking. It's about growing and being successful. It's very important to our wealth management and corporate franchise, in addition to serving our institutional clients. So, I think with a 25% on return on allocated capital, it's very difficult to see the merit of those reports.
And 25% rise in equity trading in dollar terms puts you generally in line with what the U.S. investment banks were reporting as well. Do you expect that kind of growth to continue?
Well, to be honest, I think that to say that those results are in line with our competitors is a little bit of an understatement, if you allow me to say that. I think that the numbers are very strong. Actually, in equities, if you basically, in addition to that, put the part of corporate equity derivatives that we account into our investment banking business into the equity, we would have had a 37% increase in dollar terms. So I think that was very strong.
Beating the U.S. Let's say that would beat what U.S. banks are reporting.
Absolutely.
What do you expect from the investment bank? I mean, I also saw reports that you want your bankers meeting with, I think, 200 or 300 clients face-to-face every year. I mean, is that really a key part of the growth that you keep talking about?
But I think in every business there is a discipline in trying to tell people you go out and talk to clients, create a framework of accountability, benchmark. I guess you guys also have some kind of, need to do X number of interviews or write a certain number of reports. And, our focus is to make sure that we go to see clients, give them our best value, and keep a discipline.
Let's talk about costs. That's a main focus for investors. How are you able to keep a handle on costs with MiFID, with CCAR, with all these rising and continued litigation costs? What are your plans for that?
Well, I think that's by freeing up resources, streamlining our cost base in other areas. I mean, in 2017, we completed a program where we basically saved 2.1 billion Swiss francs, and the vast majority that was then also utilized to reinvest in our business, both to fulfill regulatory requirements, but also to invest in our future in terms of how we serve clients. And you look at our technology spend this quarter is up 100 million. Year on year, because we are investing in digitalizing the bank, and that will allow us to take down costs and streamline and create efficiencies in other areas of the bank.
What about the possibility of sharing back office work with other banks, like local Swiss banks?
Well, I mean, look, I've been talking about this as a great opportunity and must for the industry. Well beyond the domestic boundaries, and we are making good progress, and the industry is making good progress in those discussions, but there is nothing specific to talk about at this stage.
On the wealth management side, you had tremendous inflows in the first quarter. Can that continue throughout the year?
Well, of course, I'm very pleased that if you look in aggregate, our wealth management and asset management businesses have achieved net new money growth of half of what we achieved last year, 50 billion. So yes, and I'm very pleased in wealth management that all geographies, all regions have been contributing to that. Switzerland, Europe, APAC, and the US. So we see very good momentum, very good quality of the net new money that we got in, which is following also a very strong Q4.
With both businesses, there's a threat with geopolitical tensions rising. You stated this with the concerns over trade globally. How much of a threat is that?
Now, look, the world is really mixed, because if you look at the economic dynamics, they are still very constructive across the board. So there is still some sign of synchronized growth and momentum. But on the other end, when you look at the geopolitical picture, the geoeconomic picture with protectionism coming up, the picture gets a little bit more foggy. And clients are feeling that. You look at the behaviors in the first quarter of clients' activity. We had an exuberant January, well beyond what you would describe the normal seasonal factors, and followed by much more muted client activity levels in February and March, which was similar to what we saw in 2017 during the year. So it's very difficult to say anything other than we are prepared from a business standpoint of view. We have a good momentum in our businesses, and we know that our business mix allow us to navigate almost every market conditions that we observed.
What do you expect in the second quarter? I mean, people are going to have to pay taxes. That's a seasonal issue that happens every year. And you've said this muted volatility that we're back to, you expect that to continue. How's that going to affect results?
Absolutely, I think that's. But I think 2018 is going to be more of the same as we observed in 2017, and that was a good year for us. And we do believe that we can still continue to grow our businesses and perform in all market conditions. April is, as you pointed out, in the U.S. is a year where. Is a month where clients are using part of their assets to pay taxes, but I don't expect any major impact on the full quarter out of that.
Synchronized growth was kind of the mantra last year. You mentioned it. Although we're starting to see PMIs roll over in Europe, the yield curve is flattening incredibly in the U.S. Should we expect synchronized growth to calm down?
Well, we'll see in the next few months what's going to come out. Of course, if you look at the pattern of growth in the global economies has been quite good in the last few years. So one day or the other, you're going to start to see some kind of a cyclical outcome. We shouldn't be too worried about that. It's quite natural. But for the foreseeable future, we do not expect any major changes in the macroeconomic picture.
What would a 10-year yield of 3% mean for your business, or more?
Look, it's of course, the psychological barrier of 3% may drive investors and both institutional and private investors to think about maybe diversifying more into bonds and try to go back into long-term bonds. But in general, it's early to say. I think it's probably more psychological than anything else for the time being.
Just quickly on the currency issue. The Swiss franc has made some interesting moves lately, and I know that you're considering a switch into dollar reporting. When do you think we'll see that happen?
I think that's something that is going to happen late this year, but we will announce when we have all the details and we are ready. I think, of course, the Swiss franc has been strengthening against the dollar and weakening against the euro, so it's a complicated picture in respect of how is affecting our business. But of course, we have 70% of our clients' asset base is dollar based. We have also revenues in our wealth management business. 70% is dollar based, so we are very sensitive to the dollar Swiss franc exchange rate movements.
Finally, you've got legal issues in the U.S., a lawsuit there that you're dealing with, and one in France. When do you expect to wrap up these legal issues and get them behind you?
Look, I think I always mention that we are not in full control of the timing of resolution. Our focus is to get facts on the table and where appropriate to find settlements that are in the interest of our shareholders.